Hello and welcome to the Fellowship's Style Stage. I'm Ashley Hodges, your Vice President and your host for this session. And I'm here with the fabulous Michelle Marshall, guest artist for Redken and Salon owner. How are you, Michelle? Thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very, very well. And my role within a salon is I still work behind the chair, but I've got 2 salons based in Cardiff. But I see my role now as growing and developing the team so that they can be the best versions of themselves and to introduce them to areas of hairdressing that they didn't even know existed. And it just means that we're stronger and powerful as an employed salon.
Yeah, fantastic. And you yourself go off and do some fantastic things with Redken as a guest artist. What's that role entail?
Well, I'm one of Redken's international artists, so I travel all over the globe educating other salon professionals to just be better at what they do, but sharing my passion for colour, for styling, for all things Redken, of course, and just to be able to help our industry elevate itself, because often we're not seen as being maybe the absolute top of the tree, but I think we are the top of the tree.
Right, Michelle, before we get started on your finished look, which I'm really excited to see, you've done a lot of prep work for this, so let's have a look at what you've done already.
Fantastic. Well, as you can see, we've already prepped the hair. This was the second application of Shades EQ Gloss, and we're using a diagonal sectioning pattern so that we can help the hair to move. We all know that diagonals create movement, so we using them in a colouring technique is just going to help the colour transition much better. And then you can see I'm prepping my bowl and brush and my bottles, and with Redken Shades EQ they advocate using a bottle and a brush, which, you know, for most of us as hairdressers that's what we use. And you can see I'm applying it with Shades EQ Gloss to cream, so it's a slightly thicker consistency in the developer, but it helps to move through the hair really easily. And you can see I'm not being really strategic with my application. I'm flicking it back more so that you're getting a much more transitions finish to what would be normally a zone 1 or a root application colour. And then once I've finished applying it to all of that section, which is my nape area, I'm then bringing the section down, and then you can see I'm moving the colour a little bit further down on that section so that I'm making sure it transitions, and then I'm using my bottle to be able to move the product through the lengths. But I'm going in with 3 formulas, my zone 1 formula, my 2 bottle formulas in a much warmer mix of colour. So this then, because we're changing the formula per section, we're creating a multi-dimensional finish rather than it being very solid. And you can see I'm changing my angle there and helping the colour to draw down where there's darker areas to almost accent and highlight that. And then I'm going to go in with a lighter colour and just move that product seamlessly all the way through the hair. And you can see I'm not rubbing, I'm not trying to ruffle the cuticle, I'm just trying to keep everything really smooth and really shiny, so the ultimate end result is very glossy and shiny. And then on this video it's showcasing the back of the hair is already being coloured, and I'm just working on a diagonal forward at the front, and you can see the sectioning pattern. It's all in diagonals, which ultimately is creating triangles. I'm working on each of those triangles, looking at different formulas. And then I'm pulling the section back, splitting it diagonally, so that when it's split diagonally, they're going to nicely move and cross over each other. And as you can see, as I'm drawing the hair back, you can see that's going to sit low, and the top section is almost going to overlap. And they're almost going to overlap each other. And then when I go to apply the technique, I'm going to apply to the one nearest the face, but concentrate on a lighter shade nearest the face so that we can create that nice brightness. but again, just tapping in and smoothing, very natural, light, gentle strokes, so that you're not having a firm stop or starting point, and just a very fluid finish. And then you can see I'm changing my angle again and going vertically so that I'm smudging that area of dark down. And then I'm looking importantly on the underside, so I'm making sure that that area as well is covered, and just making sure all those little hairs are sweeping up, but creating that texture.
Wow, it's so much hard work in that colour. I loved all your crisscrossing, and we'll get involved in that a little bit more in a minute. But you've already started prepping this today, so do you want to jump in and tell us what you've been doing and get started?
Absolutely. So we've already prepped the hair. We went back to the same sections that we did previous, as you saw in the first screen, where you could see all of those forward diagonals creating triangles. We went back and resectioned here. I've already curled all of these sections. I prepped it with the thermal spray 11. So I've prepped all of that. That's going to protect up to 230 degrees heat protection and make sure that fibre is kept really, really good integrity, keeping the colour and making sure when I've curled the hair, it's not going to be frizzy or bristly. It's going to have a really nice smooth surface. So I've then done that all the way around, and I've pinned back so that the curls hold their shape.
Great. So what are you going to be going forward with now?
So I'm going to use a thin wand, and that's going to create the shape. I'm going to go in and show you the side section. So I've left just one triangle at the top, and with this one triangle, often, I'll just undo the hair. It's already curled it for me,
How
which is beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah.
Perhaps I don't need to. So when we come to the parting, often we're ending up with a straight piece of hair and quite a wide section. And if we curl that to here, we might end up with quite a strong line. So what we've done is go through that section diagonally to split it. So when you're seeing that will crisscross, because the under section will be overlapped and overlaid by the top section. So that will just make it more seamless in the transition. And then I'm going to take my section and just prep it with the product all the way down. Often people think, oh, it's going to wet the hair, it's going to make it, you know, that's not good. But this will dry really quickly as I'm combing it. And then when you take your wand, we're going to go in low. So this was my triangle, but I'm going to curl right at the bottom of my triangle so that I'm going to create stretch on the root area and create curl just at the bottom. So by using the sections, I'm utilising the same one. I just would help if I switched it on. So I'm going to switch it on.
Good things, these GHDs heat up quickly, don't they?
Just so good. Few seconds, I'll just wait for that to warm up. There we are, it's hot. And I would say I usually feel the hair, and when I can feel the hair getting hot, I know that's time to release. And then I'm going to release it. Now it's hot. Twist. Back in. Don't be afraid to go back in if you take it out and you think, oh, that's not really worked. And then release. And then just pin that section back up. Into its base and let it sit. You can see where I've taken this one already out and it's just sitting and framing the face. So by going around, and this is a really good hot tip when you're wrapping, that when you're wrapping the hair away from the face, show you now, you can see I'm smoothing. I'm going to wrap, and what is really important is you twist your hand as you're wrapping, because as you're twisting your hand as you're wrapping, you're creating a rope effect. So that
Perfect.
really...
So you're going to get more of a springy curl.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
And don't ask me to slow down and do it, because I find if I think about it too much, and that's a really good hot tip, just go with it, wrap it, and you'll find you can see it really does grip in, and it's got more of a... I find when it's brushed out, it just gives it a much stronger finish.
Lovely. I do think the majority of our job is muscle memory, isn't it?
Yes.
If our brain gets involved, we lose track.
Oh, absolutely. If I had to slow it down, you just got to wrap, twist, wrap, twist, and almost go with it.
So you're using the same sectioning pattern as the hair colouring technique?
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. And do you do that quite a lot with...
Yeah, I think when you're styling, often we think of styling as being quite traditional when we learn to style. And sometimes people follow the same pattern, but we're only getting one result. Whereas if we start to think about how colour is, especially now when we think about teasy lights and we think about chunky weaves and we think about all the different placement and leaving negative space. If we can think about that and transition that into a sectioning pattern for styling, we've now got a completely different way and a completely different end result.
Brilliant.
So what I always find is, because I like to work from front to back, so you're working on the right side or the left side, whichever first, you then end up with an area at the crown that has got two triangles. And I find that, you know, a lot of times you can easily just curl those. You then draw the curls down and you're ending up with a split on the crown. And then that's really hard, backcombing, you know, we've all been there. I've done it, I'm sure you've done it too. And you think, oh no, I can't get rid of this now. So what my hot tip for this is, I just unravel these lovely curls, is to take that last crown section and leave it to last, take it in one, and then almost look at the hair and how that's going to sit much better over the crown, and how can you section it so that when you apply your wave or curl, you're actually not going to see any start or finish point. So I find it's better to go side to side, so high on the right, low on the left, and then split it. So we've now got less hair to work with, but we've got a lower section and a topper section, and they will just cover over each other. I'll clip that. And you might be thinking, oh well, why can't I just take it in one section? Because that's the crown section. And you know, you can, but the outcome is that the curl will be very relaxed and very loose, and you're not going to have such a springy result. And if that's the result that you want, then that's cool. But if you want something a lot firmer, then you need to just have smaller sections.
And would you adjust that for different hair textures and densities?
100%. You know, like with Megan's hair, she's thinner on the left and thicker on the right. So a couple of areas I had to break the triangles down a little bit smaller so that I accommodated that for her. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to twist. And you can see I'm keeping it really low to almost the bottom of the triangle. And I'm using that as my guide. So if I use the bottom of the triangle as my guide for where my wand should sit, I know I'm going to get a really nice stretched root, and it's going to sit very low, and it's going to be wider when we brush it out.
And heat protection is a key thing for you with this look, Michelle.
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, if you haven't got heat protection, what will happen, the downside of it, and we all know that I'm as guilty as anyone of putting heat on and thinking, oh my gosh, I'll put it, I'll straighten it or smooth it or curl it. The downside is the elongation of colour. The fiber's not going to look as good. The colour's not going to take as evenly. And it's a great thing to educate our guests on, that the better they look after their hair, their fibre, the better results we're going to get when they want to have a balayage, when they want to have a really lovely copper blonde, or even this really beautiful, rich, bright copper that's really fashionable at the moment. You know, we get asked by lots of people to achieve that, but when we do our consultation, we discover the hair fiber's not in great nick, and they've been using a lot of heat. And then we now have got to go in with treatments products and get that hair fibre to its ultimate point so the colour will look beautiful.
Yeah. And would you do that with a client in stages, or would you give them the colour and then direct them with the tools to keep it?
I would prep them.
Prep them.
We would send them on a consultation home with products,
Yeah.
start the journey today with us. Then we would say to them to come in for treatments. Depending on how poor the condition is, we might set them up and get them to come in for a cut and blow dry or a blow dry and a series of treatments. Then we'll look at the fibre, see if it's ready for colouring, then book the appointment. But I think now in today's market where expectations are so massive and so vast, I think we as hairdressers have got to own it a bit more.
Yeah.
And we've got to educate our guests, because if we don't educate them, it's out there.
Yeah.
They've only got to go on TikTok and they're told to put rosemary oil on their hair.
Yes.
It's going to make everything beautiful. And we as hairdressers know it's not.
Exactly.
So I feel like we've got to take back the control and educate our guests and our stylists to be able to be the one in control of the destiny, because ultimately something I'm really passionate about, you probably can tell, but ultimately I find that if we prevent that, we're going to prevent the heartache further down the line when somebody says my colour hasn't worked, and then the hairdresser gets some negative feedback, and that negative feedback never needed to happen.
Yeah.
And then it ruins our mental health because we're worried about being,
We want to please everyone and make beautiful hair for
don't
them.
we?
Yeah,
don't we?
instantly.
We just want to please everybody, and unfortunately, it gets us into real trouble, doesn't it? So I've finished the curling part of it now, and I've pinned back, and I would pin this back on all of it, and then just take it out section by section. However, this section, this one, I did earlier, and I didn't pin it back, and I wanted to show that actually I've pinned it back for today because it makes it easier to work in steps. But actually the heat protection has got a hold of 11 in it, so it's 11 times stronger than water, so which means it's going to have some more memory.
Fantastic.
So when you spray that on and curl it, you could rest assured you're not relying on pins, and that for me cuts down the time in the salon that you're behind the chair with somebody.
And is that all you've prepped it with?
Great question, thank you for that. We've prepped it with quick blow dry, which is Redken's heat protection, but it helps to speed up the drying time.
Right.
We've then gone in with acidic bonding concentrate, which is an acidic based shampoo, conditioner and leave-in treatment. Heat protection again, but it's also got a bond builder in it. So by putting that cream on before blow drying, it's helping to fix some of those salt and hydrogen bonds that get broken through styling. So we're layering up.
But layering up with protection and health, and what a lovely way to prep hair.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we could have gone in with maybe some mousse or some different products, but for this look, I wanted to showcase how well this would work on its own, and also
the hold that you've got, you can see in the front, is beautiful.
And also I think I wanted to showcase how Shades EQ really does, and treatments will really help somebody's hair look beautiful without relying on something to cover it up after.
Great, so you're going to dress it out. I can't wait to see the colour.
So I'm going to start by just unpinning, and I would say just unpin all of them because you want to start to see your curl.
To hold
oh, yes, please.
I make a very good assistant.
I like being an assistant too.
Oh yeah, it's such an easy job compared to what you end up having to do most of the time.
Lovely. Thank you.
My pleasure.
There's always a sneaky one.
And you've left root drag for a reason.
Yes, yes. I've left root drag because I want the hair to be more about the mid-lengths and ends and not about the height on top. So then, as we brush out, you'll see it'll start to fill this area. Because Megan is quite small in the face, and if we start building height, she's quite tall and she's slim.
Yeah.
So really width is actually a really good structure for her, and it becomes much more airy when we brush out this size curl.
And do you take into consideration people's face shapes and style when you're styling hair?
Absolutely, because, you know, just like when we're cutting hair, if we're styling hair against the natural shape and the natural structure, we're not going to make the person look their best.
Yeah.
And I know that people come in with pictures and they come in with things that they really want to have, but I feel it's our job to guide them best. Absolutely.
Well, you'd guide them with a colour, like you were just saying, and you'd guide them with a haircut, so a hairstyle should be no different.
No, exactly. And then we're going to go around to the back and start working the sections. And just really, oops.
And what tool are you using for this?
So this tool is a friend of mine, actually, Marco Arena. He's a Redken artist from Germany. He has his own tools, but this is very much like I would always call it a hair up brush.
Yeah, it's a dressing brush.
Like a dressing brush, isn't it? And I know we can get, you know, different brands do them. And just really brush it out so you can see the airiness in the colour. And there's always one clip hiding.
Always.
And then I'm going to leave, I'm working, you can see I'm working sort of from bottom to top, so that I'm then going to leave the crown till last. And you can see where I've split it into the diagonals. Now we've got smaller sections, so it means we've got a little bit more curl.
And you're really allowing the air to get into that, aren't you?
Yeah, we just want it to be really pretty, really airy. Just allow that colour and allow that hair to shine and just show off all the dimension.
Yeah. And that tone is beautiful. So let's go round back to let's start back at the beginning to the colour. So what shades did you use?
Oh, so I used Shades EQ on Zone 1 and the Melt.
Yeah.
They've got their new palette of 07AA, which is like Auburn, which is a strong copper. And then I mixed that because I knew that on her natural hair it needed some base. So we mixed it with 06NB, which is a natural base shade, and then added into it some 6WG, which is warm gold.
Beautiful. And this has been like a true colour transformation, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. See as it's bringing round.
You can really see that shape coming together now.
Yeah. And you can see where I've allowed that root to drag, that the hair is filling, and because of the line of the cut, now we're filling from cheekbone down to the length and creating that width here. And then the other two shades that I used through the lengths was 010AA, so level 10, Auburn, and the second formula was 09CR, so a copper red, with some 9VRO, which is a violet rose. Beautiful. So you get a real mix of those sort of rosy, apricot, butternut shades all the way through.
What a lovely way to describe it for a client as well.
Yes. I think that's, you know, with the Redken Shades EQ, everything's got a name. So you can use those names. I think it's great to use those in captions on Instagram so people can conjure up what that's going to look like.
Clients often say that we always have our own language, so if we can try and like bridge the gap between a colourist's language and their language.
You can almost, you you know, really bridge the gap with that communication.
Yeah.
Often guests say, oh, I want to have, you know, a balayage. I want my hair to be darker here. And when in reality, they actually don't want it darker there. They just like the overall impression of it.
That's looking beautiful.
Thank you. And then to finish off, I'm using Redken's Quick Dry 18, hold of 18, so 18 times stronger than water. But this is very light and airy, it's not wet, so it'll just give it hold all the way, but it's not going to make it stiff, so it'll still move, and you're able to see the hair.
So you'll keep that aerated texture that you've created?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Whereas sometimes, you know, depending on which hairspray I would select, it would be for short and spiky hair or textured hair that needed something with a different feel. And then what I always find is really key and really important when you're styling hair that's curled is to make sure you don't forget here.
That's a great little tip.
Because underneath there, when you want to keep the width, and you can see just by moving around, I've missed a section. So I'm just going to pop there, go back in with the brush, and just bring that. And now my shape is more complete. And I'll just lift the hair, spray underneath, and then the same on the other side. So you just go in underneath, and often I will get somebody to put their head back in the chair, so you've got their curls bellowing down the chair, and then go underneath, and then that just enables the hold to be better and the airiness to stay. And then I'll bring it round to the front.
Beautiful. Yeah. Do you want to remove your gown and show off your whole look?
Let's have a look. Is that my under here? Let me just come round here. And then let me just put it round.
Perfect. If you'd like to stand up for us, my darling. Do you want to do a little recap over the whole process?
Yeah, great. So we've prepped the hair before we started with treatments. We then applied our Shades EQ in 3 formulas in diagonals, making triangles so that we're creating that dimension and that movement. We've layered up then with heat protection. We've gone through our acidic bonding concentrate leave-in, our quick blow dry, and we've gone in then with our thermal spray and our quick dry 18. We've used a thin wand, made sure we've worked with the same triangular sections, but allowing the wand to sit at the bottom of the triangle. So we're making sure we're maintaining root stretch on every section. And that is enabling us to get a very close to the head, very head hugging shape, but then allowing the curls to give us width across the shoulders and make the hair look fuller, but not high and volumized.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle, and your beautiful model for your look today. Thank you all for watching. We will see you again soon.
Thank you for having me.